being in constant pain, it's not fun. Waking up every morning
Yeah.
and you're in so much pain, you're just like it's not fun. So it was like very, that's it, stressful and very rough to deal with mentally too. I remember
Yeah.
having this conversation with my coach a number of times when she was like, maybe think about yourself right now. Think about what your
Mm.
body needs right now. Take a little break. But I was like, no, like I'm gonna do everything that I have to so I
Wow.
can play, I can get back.
But that's nice to
But
hear. This is All Things College and Life. Hi, Puneet. Welcome. Great to have you here today. A star golfer. Uh, I last we spoke, you were doing extremely well on the Indian circuit, and you were heading to Old Dominion, and you were about to start your D1 goal. So glad to have you here, and excited to chat about your journey so far as well.
thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, jumping right into it, Puneet, how has the experience been so far? It's been a year and a half, I believe, for you,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So, how has the whole journey been so far for you?
I mean, it's been great so far. I get to play the sport that I love so much on a Division 1 level and representing ODU. It's a great honor for me. Um, Balancing the student athlete life can be like it was challenging at first. I like
Mm.
went um, through the way, dealing with stuff, and it's just a great experience overall.
Yeah. Awesome. Glad to hear. And perhaps starting off last year when you went to the US and you're going from Chandigarh, what I really would love to know is how is the whole transition process for you? Because also like ODU is not a college where you have a lot of international students perhaps going. It's not like a top academic name or anything by any means, but it's a really good school for if you're playing golf. It was, the top 100 at the time, at least I remember, and still is, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
In women's golf, it was in the top 100. So that was a great thing. And of course, golf being the focus, we selected on that. But it's not a school where you'll find a lot of other Indian students from Delhi or Chandigarh or Bombay and all going. So, how is the experience of moving there, settling in? Tell me a little bit about that.
Adjusting to the life here at ODU, coming from India, it was a big transition, as you mentioned. It's the different academic structures, the social norms, the the getting used to the social life here and America in general is very different from what we have in India. So it was it's been a unique experience, I would say. I've met some great friends. I have a great friend group here. My teammates, my coaches, the advisors, everyone's been so helpful in understanding that I come from a very different, I'd say, cultural background,
Hmm.
and it's been great to know, get be friends with people from different cultures, just getting to know it, get being that way. So ODU is actually a place where there's people from all around the world. There's actually a big number of international students who go here. Um, so just getting to know different cultures, being a part of different, I'd say, festivals here. There's like great celebrations and everything. So being part of
Yeah.
all of that, getting to know it, it's just a good experience.
Wow, glad to hear. And I think when you're on a team, the whole transition always becomes a lot simpler and a lot easier.
Yeah.
Just because you have team members, you have a coach who's from day one looking after you. And I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing on the golf front, when you transitioned in, that would have been perhaps a bigger challenge than getting used to some of the other things at college, because especially being in a very high D1 school, uh, going in from India, the tournament structures are different. It's the first time perhaps you're seeing yourself be in a team as a golfer, because
Right.
back in India you're not really in a team, you're competing one on one. Even though you may be competing against friends, it is still competition. Versus now you're in an environment where there's a team, the infrastructure is different. So I'd love to know more about what that golfing change was like, and maybe touch on infrastructure, team, coach, how the whole environment changed for you. Would love to hear that.
Um, I would say there's definitely a big change in, um, as you mentioned, infrastructure, the facilities, coaching, and golf in general. But one of the biggest things that I noticed coming here was the difference in level of competition here in Division One. You're competing against the players who are, some of the best amateurs in the world. When you realize that you're in a field with literally the best amateurs in the world, it's a different experience. It's a different like pressure. Um, but it's all at the end of the day, it's really preparing you for professional golf, and that's my goal in life. That's one of the things I've always kept in mind, even when I
Yeah.
was going through my process, my college process, if you remember.
Yeah.
um, but there's one of the, I'd say, positive sides is also that there's exposure to that competition that you'll be facing in your professional level early on. So
Hmm.
I would say you stand in those terms, what changes you need to make in your training, um, yourself being an athlete. And it can be very encouraging or
Yeah.
discouraging depending on how the athlete really takes it. Yeah.
Makes sense. And where do you currently like stand on the team? Are you one of the top golfers on the team? Are you somewhere in the middle?
Ending my freshman year, yes, I was a best on the team with the scoring average.
Okay.
Sophomore year has been kind of the first semester. It's been like kind of like wonky. I did not have a good start,
Mhm.
um, but I was getting right at it towards the end, and then the season ended. But I'm very excited to start spring fresh, getting back in that field.
Yeah. And you also mentioned earlier to me separately that you've gone through a couple of injuries also. So when did that happen? Was that in your freshman year or that happened more towards the last semester?
No, beginning my second semester, that's spring 2024.
Got it.
My freshman year, I got injured in my back, a couple of disc herniations, and meniscus rupture in my left knee. And I was going through a series of edible steroids to keep that in check while still having to while sting like playing the tournaments and everything. So
Mm.
that had a very negative toll on my health. And then going through kind of like a series of shots, kind of like a surgery to fix that, and then not having enough time, not giving myself enough time to rest or recover, and then still keeping up with the season, still getting right back. So
Yeah.
it had like a bunch of negative effects on my health. So coming back in summer, um I was seeing a bunch of doctors for disturbances in my hormone levels,
Mm.
my thyroid hormone levels, because of the excess amount of steroid in my body. So that affected my thyroid system, my hormone system in the body. And coming back for the fall, the back issues came back, the knee issues kind of increased. So it was like a lot to deal with, injuries while keeping up with the season. So,
Wow.
but in the off season, I've recovered. I've been keeping up with the doctors and feeling much better right now. And just another month and a half till the season starts, and I
Uh,
hope I'll be in much better shape.
Wow, that does not sound easy.
It
That's
wasn't.
tough. Yeah. And I actually wanna, I don't know, this may be a little controversial and you can choose not to answer the question that I'm gonna ask, but I'll ask anyway. How is the whole treatment process? Let's say now, and this is relevant for like any student athlete today who's in college or someone watching this or hearing this potentially who may be a student athlete in the future. What happens when you get injured? What kind of support exists from the college aspect and from a hospital healthcare aspect in the US?
For me, the experience has been great. My coaches, the entire like the physical trainers and all the staff here, they've been great. They've been very helpful in keeping up with everything. Whether that's my hospital visits, keeping up with everything going on with the doctor, really helping me um, to cope up with it mentally too.
Yeah.
There's been great counseling services here at ODU too. That's been very very helpful um, to get me through all of that. For me, it was a very positive experience. I know it might not be the same for everyone,
Mhm.
um, but for me personally, my coaches, they were my teammates. all the staff here, the as I mentioned, the physical trainers and everyone, they've just been very, very supportive, if anything, through all of it, and they still are. Um,
Great.
it's yeah, it's been very, very good for me so far.
Good. Glad to hear that. But now here comes my controversial question. Do you feel the steroids were too much? Were they needed? Were they required at the
They were
time?
at the moment it was required because I was in the
Mm.
middle of the season. It was literally
Yeah,
February and March. That's the middle of the spring semester.
right. You're at the
That's
peak of the season then, yeah.
right. So in the moment was required. I was on steroids. I played two tournaments while I was still on it, and then I went for the surgery, and then I continued. I had to miss the first tournament of the spring actually because of that, and then um fourth tournament onwards, it after the surgery. It got better in the moment, but then the negative effects of it started showing up later when I actually
Mm,
went back
mm.
home and gave myself some rest and some
Yeah.
recovery. Figured out that was not probably the best to like get right back into it with
Mm,
no
mm.
time to recover. So I I dealt with the consequences, I'd say, but it's a part of the process.
What were some of the consequences? Like, what were some of the side effects or harmful impact? Because I have no idea. Like, I know sometimes you can gain weight and things like that, but and from what I've heard, it can impact the mood a little bit, but I don't know how true that is. So, what were some of the impacts?
It was definitely very like physical and mental too. I So since I did not have much rest, or even it could be just side effects of the steroids or anything, I got extreme inflammation in my hips and and like rest of my lower body, which was very painful to deal with. So I was on this one anti-inflammatory medicine for like 4 months, and like when I like stopped taking it, it just got right back the extreme inflammation. It was very
Oh.
painful, and dealing with all of that
Mm.
is a lot mental, like too. It affects you a lot mentally. Just being in constant pain, it's not fun. Waking up every morning
Yeah.
and you're in so much pain, you're just like it's not fun. So it was like very, I'd say, stressful and very rough to deal with mentally too. But as
Mm.
I mentioned, there's everyone around me they were like so like supportive. If anything, there were counseling services that helped me through all of it. So the recovery was very gentle, I would say.
Good.
Yeah.
Wow. And did you know these harms may happen when you were taking it, when you were taking the steroids?
Not really, no.
No? Yeah.
But I figured out that it like there's gonna be challenges later on since I was not giving myself enough rest. I was still trying to keep up
Yeah.
with everything, like from workouts to every single practice session to the travel, everything.
Mm.
I and now that I think back about it, I could have taken a little break um to prioritize myself first, but I did not do that. That's a little silly
But
of
it's
me.
hard to say, right? Because like I was an athlete as well, and I think today, I mean, my career is, college counseling. So I'm like I do a lot of sports and I do endurance sports and stuff, but that's like I'm not an athlete. Like I'm not trying to make it pro or anything. So I think personally, if the same situation I were in, I'll prioritize my health first. However, if I was a student athlete, I probably would have done the same as you. So
Right.
I don't think you can beat yourself about that because when you're in that moment, it's your season. You know you're the top player on the team at that time. You're carrying the team forward. It's your first year. You've been through the fall semester. You're now in the spring semester. Now it's season time where it actually all counts. And someone tells you, well, you can take this and it'll just subside the pain and you can play the tournaments. Yeah, you'll do it. So it's very
Right.
hard to be in that moment and be like, no, I'm not gonna take part. And maybe at some point you get to that point where you realize, uh, hopefully this situation never comes. But if you're ever in that situation, maybe you'll choose differently after this experience. But I think as an athlete, we've all done this. Like the amount of times I have played on like I played soccer, so amount of times I've played on like a really bad ankle, a swollen ankle, and stuff like that. Which is now when I think about it, I'm like, cannot believe like that I was running on that. Because what if it got worse?
Right.
You'll be out for like 6 months or a year. You won't be able to run. But yeah, we I think we all did that just because at that time it felt like competing was more important than dealing with the consequences later.
Right. I mean, it's just like as an athlete, it's just an instinct. Like you don't want to give up. You want to just go till you're very extreme. I remember
Yeah.
having this conversation with my coach a number of times when she was like, maybe think about yourself right now. Think about what your body needs right now. Take a little break. But I was like, no, like I'm gonna do everything that I have to so I
Wow.
can play, I can get back. And
But that's nice to
but
hear that. I mean, your coach was because you can have a coach who's like really pushing you and being like, no, take those
right,
steroids and just compete. And then there can be nicer coaches where they're like, well, think about it for a second. And so it's nice to hear that your coach was supportive and was probably okay, even if you skipped a few tournaments and took care of yourself. But seems like it was your drive that made you do it, and that's okay. Don't blame
right.
you for it.
Yeah, my coach, both of my coaches, they're like super supportive of every decision that I took,
Nice.
even though they kind of knew that I was like making maybe some wrong choices there. Maybe I could have, skipped some workouts, skipped some practices, just taken break, but was just me. I was like, no, I have to do it because
Yeah.
it's just as an athlete, as I mentioned, it's like, your drive that you really want to push yourself to the extreme.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel it was rewarding. It was very rewarding. I had a great spring semester.
Mm.
I ended up with the all conference second team, a bunch of other honors,
Amazing.
ending my
Mm.
freshman year. So I would say it was all worth it.
Yeah.
Even though
No,
I'm
I
still bearing
remember.
with the consequences,
Yeah,
but it's all worth it.
I know. And hopefully you'll be okay in the coming months for the spring semester also. How are your parents dealing with it? Because I remember your parents also, of course, they were very nervous for you to just be going to the US in the first place. That
Right.
can we like, is she gonna be okay or not? Is this the right place? Will she be taken care of? And I can't imagine that 5 months, 6 months into the experience, this is all going on. I'm
Right.
sure they must be like really worried back home. And so, how are they dealing with it?
They're just worried 24/7. Like every single time I call them, they're like, they don't care about anything else. Not the studies, not golf. They're just like, how are you doing right now? Are you okay? How's everything going with the doctors? Like literally every single time I call them. And it was hard for them too last year when I was telling all of them. And, obviously I was like, well, this going on. I'm in pain. And then I'm like, when with this, it does not go well with the schedule because spring tends to be busier than fall
Mm,
because there's no technical off season. Um, so we are playing literally from the beginning of this semester till all the way till the end, even after final, sometimes if you make it to the postseason. So then I was like, yeah. And also I was like, studies can be kind of hard to keep up with amidst of all of this. So, when
yeah.
I was telling them, they were like, just my dad, he was like just very like raw with it. He was like, I know you can deal with it, just come back. Just leave everything and come back. And I'm like, Dad,
Wow.
that's not how it works.
Wow.
He's like, no, just leave everything, come back home, you'll be fine here. Like, he was just very straightforward with it. But then I had to tell him that, no, that's not how it works. It's okay. It's my decision. I want to be
What
here.
what kept you going?
I just wanted to be here. I love being here. I, as much as it has been hard or it's been rough. Um, I really, as I mentioned, I get to play the sport I love so much at Division One level, representing ODU. Every single time I wear that ODU jersey out there playing tournaments, it just feels different. And I could not take
Yeah.
anything else over that.
Mm,
I would do anything to be there. And
amazing.
with all the support that I have here, I really can't ask for anything else.
I think that's just amazing because I think I think people may hate me for saying this, but there are a lot of kids from India. If you give them that choice at that point when they're sort of down and about, and you give them that choice that your dad is just saying, hey, just come back, it's all fine. they would probably just be on the next flight. And to then say that, no, I'm dealing with the pain and I want to be here for my team, I love the college, I think that takes a lot of guts. So pretty brave of you to do that. Yeah.
Thank
Good.
you.
What about now the academic side? How has life been on the academic side of things? Again, that must have been a change as well, but how have you dealt with your classes, your professors, the whole system being different to India? Tell me more about that also.
That was definitely a big change, because in
Uh,
India we are used to like having our schedules given to us that, okay, you're taking this is your major, this is your degree, these are the classes you're supposed to take, and these are the times. Like it's all done for us, and we have to follow that set of that schedule that's given to us. But here we have a choice. Like we can choose the classes, we can choose the professors, we can choose the timings, and you can figure that out with
yeah.
your practice timings and everything. So it was different, but I think it's better. It was better for me. Now that I think about it, I was able to pick. I like having early morning classes over evening classes. So I was able
Mm.
to. I had the choice to take two classes in the morning, then go for practice, and then maybe have another class in the evening, if anything. And I was able to build my own schedule according to my comfort. Um, I really hated evening 3 hour lectures, but I mean, sometimes you're just helpless. Like first,
Yeah.
second, all 3 semesters actually, I've had an evening 3 hour lecture. And the first semester was actually a 7 to 10 p.m. class. So um, sometimes it's like you're left with no choice, but most of it is like you have a control of your own schedule. You have a control of your own day, and
Yeah.
you can like customize it to your comfort. Um, Professors so far, I think I'm lucky. I've gotten like really good professors, understanding professors so far. I've not had to deal with like professors not understanding with my schedule being an athlete, and like
Yeah.
me having to skip lectures because I'm out for tournaments.
Right.
Um, so I've not had to deal with that so far, but I've had teammates who like talk about it, like they've had to deal with professors who just don't understand that,
Mm.
the
Mm.
demands of you being an athlete. And sometimes you have to ask for extensions for assignments, maybe ask them to like push around their tests or quizzes and everything. So far it's been great for me, and I really hope that it's like that going forward too. But I know that can be a challenge for some people. As I mentioned, it
Yeah.
was like challenging for a couple of my teammates. I've heard from them, but
Yeah.
it was good for me.
Yeah. No, that's a great point because I mean, I remember from my time there were certain professors who understood that you're a student athlete,
Right.
and some understood that you're a student athlete, but they're like, well, there are zero exceptions here. You have to deal with it. You're still a student, you're missing class, deal with it, talk to other students. I'm not doing extra stuff to accommodate you, sort of a thing.
Right.
So there are professors like that, and that's okay as well. But I think being a student athlete also teaches you that, right? Because you're sort of on your toes all the time because one professor is doing a certain thing, another professor is demanding something else out of you, and you're just figuring out with your golf schedule what to do, how to handle different commitments. So I think that also makes you the whole essence of student athlete, I think, is a lot to do with how do you manage to balance all those things out.
Right.
So,
Definitely.
yeah. I won't be surprised if you end up having professors like that in the future. So be
I
prepared.
hope not. I hope not.
You can keep hoping, but chances are someone will
I don't know.
come along the way who may demand more out of you and may not give you those
Right.
exceptions. But anyway,
Right.
tell me one more thing, Puneet, and this is pretty much like my last question on this now is you obviously went with this goal that you want to turn pro, and that still remains the goal. You managed to get 100% scholarship at a very strong Division 1 school. You're doing well. You're the best player on the team right now, and hopefully you'll be back from your injury too. Tell me, do you feel you are moving closer to that professional goal, or do you feel because now you're in this level where you're competing against global talent? It's not India anymore. It's not IGU junior circuit anymore. It is now a global level, and you're competing against golfers from across the world who potentially are as good as you, a lot of times a lot better as well. Where is your mind right now with when it comes to pro? Do you feel you've gotten closer, or do you feel you've improved, but there's still so much more to do because the level is just so high over there?
Right. To begin with, I would say college definitely provides, I mean, playing college sports provides a reality check or insight on how, um, your professional playing your sport professionally might look like, and it might be very different from what we think at first, whether that's the schedule, your travel, practice, keeping up with mental health, physical health, fitness. Everything is just very different when it comes to playing your sport as a career, because it's you're
Yeah.
not just playing it for fun anymore. It's your career, it's your life. um so it makes the I would say it makes the decision easier for you when you've been through something very similar in those 4 years of college, 4 or 5 years of college, depends. um it's I would say for me, I'm still standing strong at the fact that I want to turn pro. There's obviously challenges. Given that my physical health hopefully gets better, um, I definitely stand by my decision. I think I'm ready to keep up with that schedule and travel and everything that it demands.
Yeah.
Um, but it might not be the case for everyone. It's again, it as I mentioned, it's like an insight into how your life might look like as a professional athlete. It's really hard to keep up with all that travel, especially with in a sport like golf. When you might be in professional, you might be in Europe sometime, you might be in America, you might be back in India, you might be in Asia. You know, like you might be on the road for like months in a stretch. Um, it's beyond just the fact that how much you love your sport or how good you're at it. It's way beyond that. It's the fact that if you're able to take that, if you believe that is what you want your life to look like,
Mm.
basically. um so as I mentioned, for me so far, I'm still just 3 semesters into this. There's still a long way to go,
Five
but
semesters to go at least.
5 semesters, yeah. And for me, as of now, I still stand strong by it. I want to, um, now that I know what the competition looks like, as I mentioned, and as you mentioned, there's people from all around the world and who are potentially you going to be in the same field as you,
Mm.
professionally too. It's you're going to play with these people at every level of professional golf. So you know you really get to know your place, how where you stand, whether that's golf wise or again fitness wise, keeping up with all of that. It provides you a true picture
Yeah.
of how do you really think you'll be able to keep up with it, or if you're ready for it or not.
Makes complete sense. So to break it down and tell me if I've got it correctly, you're saying three things. Number one, I think you've gotten closer to your goal than where you were a year and a half ago. The Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Second thing, what you're saying is that the level is much higher. Of course, once you've gotten that exposure, you've gone to play college golf, especially at a D1 school or a high competitive school, and you're seeing players in your conference also now. You realize where you really stand and that the level is harder. But for some athletes, that exposure and that learning can mean that they get a realism check that I don't think this is for me, versus for others, they will believe that, I think this is tough, but I think I'm going to keep going. And I think you're over there. And the third thing, what you're perhaps even saying is that be ready. If you're thinking about it, just be ready for that life also. Uh, and it's good because you're not pro yet, but you've kind of prepared yourself already mentally that it's not like this rosy picture where you're just like a professional athlete and you look very cool on Instagram and that's it. It's actually a
Right.
very tough life, and you are traveling, you're always on the road, and you have to take care of your health, nutrition, your mental health, a lot of different things while you're doing that. So it is a big
Right.
commitment. But good, glad to hear that that still is the goal. That's what I was trying to get at, because for a lot of people that changes. They realize where they stand and they realize that this is not going to be realistic. And for a few lucky ones, that's still a goal and they end up making it. So I'm really hoping for you, Puneet, that you end up being in those lucky ones. You end up, your hard work and luck plays off, and that professional dream, of course, comes true.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. It was great chatting with you, Puneet, and thank you for doing this, and thanks for sharing all these insights. Wishing you a very speedy recovery, and I hope you are back in the squad and playing again, and competing for the college in the next month or two itself for the spring semester.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Puneet. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Instagram.